Hi everybody! Today is the next video in my series of Did the Right Film Win? Looking at the animated Oscars and reviewing the nominees and seeing if I feel the right film won the award. And now we're at the year 2009. And 2009 was an extremely strong year for animation. It's probably going to be one of the best, if not the best, of all of the years that we review. There were also strong films that weren't nominated. That's how deep the year was, including The Christmas Carol, Ponyo, and Nine, all three that I like a lot. The first film that we're going to talk about is Disney's Princess and the Frog.
I'll have the entire city of New Orleans in the palm of my hand. Now we're cooking. Don't make me light my butt. Come on, boys. Shake my hand.
This is the 49th animated classic from Walt Disney Animated Studios. And there were a lot of things going for this film. First of all, it had the directors of Aladdin and Hercules and some of the other films I really like with Ron Clements and John Musker. Was the first Disney princess movie since Mulan. You don't consider Mulan a Disney princess movie, even though I do. If you don't, then you'd have to go back to Pocahontas. It had been a long time since there had been a traditional Disney princess film, and so that alone, I was so excited. It also is a 2D animated film, and Disney up to that point had been dipping their toe in the CG world with Chicken Little, and then Meet the Robinsons, and then Bolt. It's also the first Disney animated studio film to feature an African-American princess, and that was really, really cool. So all those things were great. And then I went to see it, and I remember at the time feeling really let down, and I didn't really care for it. And I remember thinking that everybody in the movie was shouting at me all the time, and I never had like a moment to breathe, and it felt very cluttered to me. There were so many side characters, there were what was going on? I didn't really understand the story, so I didn't really like it very much. And I have to say, I've seen it a number of times since, including my review for the Disney Canon project that I did last year, and I think I was probably a little bit hard on it. I think it's actually a pretty good movie. It definitely, though, still has some problems. Strength of Princess and the Frog is it is gorgeous. The animation is so beautiful. It looks so lush and colorful and bright, and so it's a joy to watch in that regard. And the 2D, of course, you know, it's one of the last ones that we'll get from Disney, and it's just gorgeous. Also love the character of Tiana. She's so hardworking, she's so fun and sweet, and I just think she's one of the best Disney princesses that they ever did. I think she has dreams that don't involve a man, and she works really, really, really hard. So I like her a lot. I also think that 3 of the songs are really, really good. I like Down in New Orleans, like Almost There, and I do like Friends on the Other Side as far as a song. Some of its content I have some issues with. And I think that the voice talent is really good. I think Anika Noni Rose, she was in Dreamgirls, and she's also a Broadway veteran, is great. I think Oprah Winfrey is actually fine as the mother. I like Jim Cummings, and David as Dr. Facilier is very good. I like his voice talent. And also really like Lottie, Tiana's best friend. She would be a character that would be really easy to make into just a shrew, make her a wicked stepsister, make her really selfish. But they actually make her really likable and really sweet. And yes, she's kind of oblivious, but in a likable way. She kind of reminds me a little bit of like Elle Woods in Legally Blonde. So that's the positives. Things I don't like about the movie. Well, the first thing is I still do feel like it is kind of shouty, and it's very they don't give enough time to just kind of get to know these people. It's always just kind of whoa, 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 whoa. And it also gets very convoluted, and the plot gets very complicated, and it's unnecessarily so. I mean, so is bewitched by Dr. Facilier into giving up some of his blood into the talisman so that his servant becomes the prince so that the servant can get back at the prince. And in order for Dr. Facilier to not be taken by the demons, he has to get the servant who looks like the prince to kiss Lottie, who will be princess of the Mardi Gras parade before midnight on Mardi Gras, because then she's not a princess anymore after that. And if he does that, then he'll be able to use his voodoo to kill her father, and then he will be king of New Orleans. So it's just really silly. And for Tiana and Naveen to break the plan, they have to go and find Mrs. Odie, who says that if Naveen kisses a princess before, then they'll get changed back and everything will be fine. And it just gets really, really, really confusing. Problem that I have with it is that I do not like the voodoo elements. As a Christian woman, I feel uncomfortable with this movie's attention to the occult. And yes, you could say that like there are movies that involve witchcraft, and I know some Christians have issues with that, but I feel like that is such a fictionalized version of that. I mean, there's of that sort of heathen practice that I don't have as much of an issue, whereas this, to me, feels a little bit more earthy and feels a little bit more, I don't know, demonic. And to me, it bothers me, this focus on the voodoo. And I don't want, as a parent, if I had children, I wouldn't want to be explaining voodoo to my, 6, 7, 8-year-old kid. What's voodoo, Mom? That to me would be extremely awkward. And so I really, really, really don't like that. And I get why they included it, because they were trying to tell an American fairy tale. And so New Orleans has a lot of that sort of mysticism and fairy tale sort of spirit. And so I get it, but I still don't like it. And so that's a personal. If you didn't have an issue with that, then I can see you not having as much of an issue with the movie. A big problem that I have with Princess and the Frog is I feel like Naveen is not worthy of Tiana. Tiana is such a special person. She's such a hard worker. She's such a good person. And he, even at the end, seems kind of slimy to me. He seems kind of like a bad guy. And I just don't feel like he learns and transitions. Like when the Beast changes, you see, even in the tone of his voice, in the way that he carries himself, in his manners, and all of that, you see a real change. And I just didn't feel like that with Naveen. And so overall, I still think it's worth seeing, and I do like it for a lot of reasons, but I just don't think it's perfect. I certainly don't have any problem with it being nominated here, although I personally like Ponyo better. The next nominated film, and that is The Secret of the Kells.
The book that turned darkness into light. You must go where I cannot. It's nie beben pure, och shall be.
And The Secret of the Kells is a film directed by Tom Moore, and if you're a fan of this channel, you will know that I loved his film last year called The Song of the Sea. And I have to say, I feel like Secret of the Kells is hurt a little bit by the fact that I don't think it's as good as Song of the Sea. I think that Song of the Sea is more emotionally rich and moved me more, and I do think it's actually prettier. I think it's more beautiful in the animation. But that is not to say that Secret of the Kells isn't good. It's great. I just think that Song of the Sea is a masterpiece. The Secret of the Kells, it's interesting because it has a really simple story, but it's oddly complicated. It's basically about a little boy who lives in a monastery, and this is kind of a little, almost like a village monastery, sort of. And his uncle is trying to build a wall around the monastery to protect it from the Vikings that are going to attack. And so he ends up becoming an apprentice for a scriptorian, sort of like a librarian kind of. And he meets a man named Brother Aiden. Aiden is the creator of the Book of Iona, a book that turns darkness into light, so it creates light. Brendan, the little boy, is sent by Aiden to go and find ink, these pellets that are used for ink, and so that they can write in the book of Iona. So he goes out into the forest. There he meets a character named Osling. And Osling is a girl who is the spirit of the forest. And she ends up helping Brendan. And in there they also meet Crom Croc, who is basically like the spirit of death. And the spirit of death doesn't want them to get the light and be able to finish the book. And so he's trying to stop them. And at the same time, you have the Vikings that are coming. And so that's sort of where all the story is going. And it's a movie that really surprised me. I never knew exactly what was going to come next. I didn't know what was going to happen. And so it's very refreshing in that way. The music is also beautiful by Bruno Coules. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. And Kia. And Kia, Kila, has the most beautiful voice. Gorgeous. We get some good voice talent, most of them unknowns. The only one that's really famous is Brendan Gleeson. He's in it. Brendan is a very likable character. He's a very strong character, but not in a bratty kind of way. He manages to do his own thing as far as the rules set by his strict uncle, but not in a way that makes him unlikable or rebellious, really. He's just doing what he thinks is right. And so altogether, I think it is a wonderful, wonderful film, even if I do think Song of the Sea is a little bit better. The only thing that I think maybe is a downside to The Secret of the Kells is I do think it's a little bit bloody, a little bit upsetting, especially towards the end for little children, and I think it might be a little hard for some little kids to follow. So that will just be depends on the child, I suppose.